What's going on, good people? This is Sim here from the Fusing Shop, and in today's video we're going to be learning how to make a chubbler. This is a little bit more of an advanced project because it does require dropping some downstems and a little bit of cold working as well. Not that that requires, like super experience or practice, but doing the downstems does. So right now I have my 9mm rod that I'm going to be using to make 2 downstems on. And when they're in the chubbler body, we want to make sure that they're offset a little bit. So I already have the end of this closed down. So if you don't know how to do that, well, go watch one of our other videos on how to close down tubing. Pretty much you just heat it at the end and let that glass gather up on itself. But right now I'm just peeling out some air bubbles and some other junk off the end. Remember to cut in the flame to not create any stringers. And metal tools do not go in the flame, folks, so just keep those things in mind. And right now I'm just re-rounding out that bottom, giving it a puff of air to make sure those walls stay nice and even. And that is looking pretty good. Now the next step we're going to do is to attach a cold seal punty onto the end of this rod. I mean the tube. I am using a tube, not a rod. The punty is a rod, but the one in my right hand is a tube. So now to make the cold seal, I'm just keeping that one in my right hand close to the fire but not in the fire, and the other one is molten hot. The one in my left hand gets molten hot. You attach the two together out of the flame and that will make a cold seal. My cold seal was amazingly good, that's why it broke off on me. That's okay. Go in, reattach, rotate on center, and yep, broke again. Third time's a charm, as they say. So let's give it another go. Again, we'll get that nice and molten hot. Let's see if I got it sealed up this time. Looks good. All right, now I'm going to heat up a little bit of tubing, and I'm using a nice bushy flame. Nice gentle bushy flame for this, because I don't want the to lose control of the tubing. It is standard wall tubing, so it's not very thick. And you want to make sure you keep control of the glass. And all I'm doing is I just made the tube a little bit offset while puffing in. This way, again, to keep everything the same diameter. You can see how that looks right there. And look at that cold seal, snap right off like no problem. That's awesome. So it did leave a little bit of a scar mark. And anytime you take off any kinds of seals, it always leaves a little bit of glass behind. So go ahead, you can either fire polish it off, or in my case, I'm using the tweezer and I'm just going to tweeze that off the end. Again, tweezers are out of the flame. You can keep them close to the flame, but never in the flame. And give a puff. Make sure that's nice and round at the bottom. And that is looking good. The next step we're going to do is to take our carbide knife and we're going to score and snap this off, because I already have the other one all prepped up. You didn't have to watch me make both. I'm just making sure I got the sizing right, making sure I'm going to get them both the same size, so everything looks nice and neat in our pipe. Take the scoring tool. This we don't need the torch for, so I close that off. This does cool down relatively quickly. It didn't cool down enough for me to grab it by hand and snap it, which was my original plan. Again, I try to do the video all in one shot. And sometimes I don't have time to let things properly cool down before reworking them and whatnot. So it's just the way it goes sometimes. Yeah, so it was a little bit toasty for me to grab it like full hand grip and snap it. So I went and grabbed my welding glove. And these gloves are great for doing glass work, and I highly recommend getting a pair of them. They're only like 10 or 15 bucks. I think these are the Radnor welding gloves. And it gives you the ability to do what I just did. And now that glass has cooled off, so now of course I can touch it. And these are just going to go right onto the ring saw. We're going to do some cold working. I'm going to be cutting 3 slits in each of these tubes. And as you know, whenever you work with glass, if it's not in the flame and you're cold working it like we are here, you have to make sure to keep the glass wet and keep that glass dust away from you. And that's the purpose of the ring saw here. It's also called a tile saw, because same concept when you cut tiles, you want to keep the dust out of the air and away from your face. So right now I'm just cutting the 3 slits. I'm sorry, I thought the camera angle was better than it is here. And my apologies for that, good people. But I'm going to show you what I did in just a minute here. And this blade won't cut your hands. It only cuts glass, which is really cool. So you don't have to use any kind of special guards or anything with it. Just make sure it does have water in it. And there's 3 slits that I just cut into that tube. And I did that for both of them. And whenever you cut glass, make sure you wash out the glass dust that gets in the tubing. So I came over to the sink. I have my pipe cleaner all ready to go. So I'm hitting those tubes with some water, getting the pipe cleaner in there, making sure we get all the glass dust out of there. All right, and we are back on the torch. I have my 25mm blank all prepped up on a blow tube, and I'm giving you a general idea. We're going to drop that down and have it offset to the side just a little bit. The first thing I'm going to do is flare out our downstems a little bit, and this makes it easier when we go to drop them into the tube. And just use a nice gentle flame. This does not take a lot of heat to do, and have your reamer at the ready. Graphite can go in the flame temporarily. I don't like leaving it in there for longer. You never should. It should never get red hot. And just give a little flare to that tube. Getting the glass in focus is always a to-do, so I do my best here, good people. Alright, and then I'm just going to flare the other one. I probably could have cut this out, but you know, I put a lot of time and work into making these videos, and it's good that you guys see all the steps that are involved. And also, if you could kindly like the video and subscribe, I greatly appreciate it, because as I just mentioned, I put a lot of effort into making the videos, and I have, you know, a bunch of kids that I take care of as well. So this is something, you know, that I enjoy doing and sharing. And sometimes I just have to squeeze it into my already crazy schedule. So that's why you might not see a post from me for a couple weeks and whatnot. But that is life. That is life, people. Okay, so I pulled out a small little point there. And I have a little bit of extra glass left over at the end. And what I'm doing now is I'm getting the rod on my left hand nice and molten hot. And the one in my right just stays near the fire. Just attach those two. And when it starts to cool off, just start to twist it. And you could crack it off and it opens up a nice hole in the end. And my hole was a little bit tiny, so I had to go in with the tungsten. And just open that up a little bit more so I could fit the reamer in. And then we're going to flare that open so we could fit in our downstem. Or downstem number 1, I should say, because we're going to be doing 2. And as I mentioned before, graphite is a tool that can temporarily go in the flame. So I'm heating up the bottom lip of my flame and rotating it and keeping that reamer in the tube so it opens up nice and on center. And there we go. Now we have to see if this fits, and we want the hole to be a little bit smaller than that lip so that lip catches on the end. So you have to size it up the best you can. Right now I couldn't get the downstem in, so I have to enlarge the hole a little bit. So go ahead, reheat, make sure you get the lip a nice even heat in the lip, or else it's going to flare out uneven. So make sure you do that before going in with the reamer. And just try to keep your hands as steady as possible when you do this. And go straight in and rotate, and you should get a nice round hole. What happened is I was beginning to gather glass on that lip, and I wanted to thin it out a little bit. So I'm taking my cup shears, and these are fantastic for snipping off glass. And they were really tricky to learn to use when I was first using them. I was heating the glass way too hot. What you want to do is wait for the orange glow to start to dull before you go and use the shears on the glass. And it's kind of just like cutting paper at that point. And that glass will just snap right off. Make sure you don't get any fragments in your blank. There we go, fitting good. Just doing a little bit of adjusting of the hole. And when I drop this in, the first thing we're going to want to do is tag it to a side. And we're going to spot heat and make a weld between those two surfaces. so it doesn't flop all around the tube as I'm finishing up the rest of that seal. So just go in, spot heat a little section, and then just tag it to the tube. Now I got the tungsten pick stuck, so got to work with that problem first. Okay, that worked out. We are detached, and now I'm going to go ahead and spot heat. And again, I like using my reamer for this. And I'm just going to smush that glass so the two surfaces meet together. And make sure that looks good before I start full rotations. And as I rotate, I'm using the reamer to guide that glass down and over the hole that we created before, so the two make a nice smooth connection. You don't want globs of glass here. You want a nice smooth, seamless connection with these two pieces, because if your seal is not 100% good and there's like extra glass, or it's, you know, globby, or you didn't seal it up a full fuse seal, then this is going to be an area that will be stressed and can crack. Now I'm using my tungsten to just go in and straighten this out and get into position where I need it to go. Make sure you check all different angles before you proceed, and you get it as straight as you can. And that's looking pretty good. Now I'm looking for another blow tube to attach. That one was not punctured, so I didn't use that. And I was originally going to use a 12 millimeter, but then I decided 16 millimeter looked like a better fit for this opening that I had. So I went ahead and used 16 millimeter heavy wall, which I really like using for like one hitters and whatnot. It just is really nice to work with. And it's got the super thick wall, so it doesn't move too quickly on you. And it's really good for beginners. If you're just beginning and you want to do like one hitters, I always start people on 16 millimeter heavy wall. And again, with this, you want to make sure you have a good tight seal. I'm puffing in to even out the walls and make sure everything is good. You want to make hot seals when you're doing this, so make sure both surfaces are nice and juicy hot, and then connect them together. You can connect them in the flame or out of the flame. I've seen people do it many different ways. And now I'm just centering up and making sure that weld is good before moving on. Make sure you're on center and make sure the glass is fully fused together. You should not see any lines or seams in the glass. And if you like this video, then go ahead and hit me with a comment. I always love hearing from you guys and hearing the feedback and the constructive criticism. My only comment is to please keep your comments kind and respectful. I'm always learning, and I love hearing from everyone and how you guys work the glass and do things in your own way. And we're all here to just make a better glass blowing community. So again, please keep your comments kind and respectful and constructive. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead. I pulled off that blow tube, and now I'm just peeling off the extra glass that was left behind. Make sure you rotate when you do this. This way you keep everything on center. And now I'm going to do the same thing I did on our other side, which is to use the solid rod to open up the end. I still had a little bit of extra glass there that I wanted to just tweeze off and make a nicer, sharper little point there. Boom. Again, making sure you cut in the flame. So to review this technique, get that rod nice and molten hot. Keep the tube close to the fire but not in the fire. And when you get a nice little gather, just smush the two together and let it stiffen up for a couple seconds, and then start to wiggle, and that'll break a nice hole right in the center. Looking good. Got to open it up a little bit so the other downstem fits. Started to catch something on fire, but we corrected the issue right away, and everything is flame proof in the shop, so that would not have been an issue anyway. But we're always careful regardless. All right, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. Size up and drop the downstem. And while I'm doing that downstem, we're going to do the dad joke for this video. And that is, how do you communicate with the Loch Ness Monster? Drop her a line. I was wondering, is the Loch Ness Monster a female? Does anybody know the answer to that? If you do, please leave me a comment below. I did not know that we gave the Loch Ness Monster a gender, but this is the first I'm seeing it. So let me know what you guys think. All right, so I'm doing the same thing I did before, tagging that in one spot, and then I'm going to use the reamer to go around and just make a nice solid attachment. Again, guide the glass where you need it to go. Be gentle. Don't muscle the glass. It's better to be gentle with the glass than put too much pressure and knock things all out of whack. So I'm just showing here that you should have a fully fused, there should be no lines in your seal, and it should look nice and clean. Now we're ready to sink the bowl for this. I'm just going to get some heat in there since I haven't worked the other end in a while. You always want to flash your cold ends just to keep a little bit of heat in there. Some people have a Bunsen burner nearby. I do not, so I flash every now and then, just to, again, make sure you do not crack or shock the glass, because we are going to be detaching this from that blow tube in a minute. So first step, get that nice and juicy hot on the end. And the downstem is going to be flopping around in there. That's okay. Just let it flop around. It's not going to affect anything. Just go ahead and sink that bowl. And you could sink it in more than one shot, or you can sink it in one shot like I did here. If you want it deeper, then feel free to go ahead and do that. Now again, I'm lining everything up and making sure it all looks good. We want them to be across from each other. This way they're not knocking into each other. And that's looking pretty good there. See if we get the bowl in focus. There we go. Kind of. I'm going to show this at the end, so spare with the glass is very hot, and getting it in the camera can be quite annoying sometimes. Okay, so I'm making a score line, and that's going to be where I crack this off. You could go ahead and flame cut if you want to do that as well. Since it's not such thick tubing, I like to just snap it off. So I put that score line in there. Again, getting some heat in there. This way nothing breaks on me. I'm going to grab my claw grabbers. To use these, you open them up, flash them in the flame, push that blue collar towards your piece, and there's a little thumb screw there that you tighten down. And they are just a great tool for any kind of hollow work. I'm just going to give that a knock with my rod, and it broke off a little bit uneven, which is okay. And it wasn't cooperating with me, so it's a little bit jaggedy right now. No problem. Just grab those tweezers and tweeze off that extra glass. Come out of the flame, have your tweezers at the ready, give a gentle pull, throw that in your bucket. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Let that glass start to make its way around and round off. Pulling off a little bit more. Making everything look nice and even on the end. And now I just go ahead and fire polish that up. And round out the middle so everything is nice and smooth. And there we go. That's going to go in the kiln for annealing. Here is the finished piece, annealed and cooled, so now we can touch it and see how it looks. My only comment is to make your slits further to the end. This way the water stays in there better than mine here. I went a little bit too fancy on this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.